Ladies and gentlemen, big terror news.
Hey, kia ora koutou, it's whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Big Hairy Chewy is a couple of minutes away. He's just messaged me saying he is held up. He'll be here momentarily. So that's all good. How are you all? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you're having a good time, one and all, and you've had yourselves a good weekend. I have had a very, very, very busy weekend. I spent probably 2 to 3 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. And if I'm including travel to and fro the post shop twice today, probably 5 hours today, packing merch to get stuff out to you from the craziness last week. So I'm pretty sure everybody who has ordered stuff on the store with that freebie last week, all bar 10 of you have your stuff's on the courier. I just literally ran out of time today. Like, I was working pretty much most of the day. I didn't organise the show until 7 p.m. Let me put it that way. That's why the link came out a bit later, because I pretty much spent the whole day up until 4:30ish working on merch, and then I had some stuff to do with one of my daughters, and then had dinner, and then prepped for the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out the people who I've not yet sent out merch to, and yours will be happening in the next 24 hours. I was going to say 48 hours in case it's a bit longer, but I'll try and commit to getting them all out tomorrow. So basically, if you ordered a t-shirt or a hoodie and a cup, I think there's only 2 of those, they've gone. But if you ordered a t-shirt and or a hoodie without a cup, there's still 6 of those orders to go. I'm looking at them through the other room right now. And there are a couple of cups that I didn't quite get done. Said postage, the post office, we'll call it, shut at 4:30. So I had to stop at some stage and hadn't quite got it through. So to Megan, Rose, Paul, MS, Rahul, Chris, Alan, Amy, Monica, and BB, I apologise, but yours will be an extra day before I get them out to you. And of course, Dave, who messaged just today, purchased something today, that will be tomorrow as well. So yeah, very, very big weekend. And in saying all of that, it also means that I haven't actually had a chance, I've been that busy, to update the website. So I'm not pushing this to force the issue, but it means that special is still running. And it's only still running not because, hey, it did so well, it did for some reason, but because I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to. Who did I run into today? I can probably go and find the gentleman's name. His name eludes me right now. I don't want to say the wrong name, so I won't. Who said, just waiting for those stickers to go on the store so we can buy some. So they're not on the store yet, because I honestly spent probably 5, maybe 7 hours over the weekend packing merch, and I just haven't had time, which means the deal I made was, until these are for sale on the store, any order you make, I'll throw these 3 stickers in, not these exact 3, but 3 stickers in for free. And I'm still happy as to do that tonight. If you're someone who didn't get on board last week and you'd like to be one of the first in the country to own it. Yeah, it seems like this one's become very popular, and there are lots of people that might seem to want to use it out and about, along with the t-shirt and or the hoodie as well. So I apologize to those 10 people. They will be done tomorrow. Everyone else, I think they're on the courier by now. Everyone else, you've probably received an email by now. And because I've been so busy and I haven't got to it yet, I'm not doing like a sneaky sort of, hey, we can do this one more time. But I haven't actually had time to put it up there. I'll probably put it up tomorrow. I'll try my best to put the stickers up there tomorrow. But any purchase at all on the store, I'll throw those 3 stickers in. And I'll do my darndest to actually get them up there tomorrow during the day. The priority will be getting everyone's merch stuff in first and on the couriers, but after that I'll get it up there. My wee friend has turned up. I don't know if he's coming in to join us because this would be the there he is. Hello, sir.
I just didn't want to interrupt your hashtag marketing splurge.
My flow. I needed you to come in because I finally saw the Manosphere over the weekend.
Oh yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, it was interesting. My wife couldn't watch it. It was like, because it was obviously it's revolting, and every aspect of it is revolting. But that's what Louis Theroux does, isn't it? It was good. It was a good documentary. Not really not shocking or nothing. I didn't learn anything. But it's interesting to see. And one of the more interesting bits was how, on one hand, they want this documentary made out of them, getting clout, and on the other hand, we're very suspicious of having him around to make a documentary about them. So that was quite interesting, sort of watching that toing and froing.
I think he could have changed the name away from the Manosphere to Daddy Issues, the documentary.
Yeah, true.
Like all of those dudes had a massive dad-shaped hole in their life that they've just been trying to fill with their twisted version of being a man.
Yeah.
Like it's so desperate and so performative and so like, no, trust me, dude, I'm happy. Yeah, and
I'm that's
sleeping
the thing
with all these people because I'm happy all the time.
That's the thing.
I want money because I'm happy all the time.
You look at them and you kind of go, I wouldn't trade for that life for all the tea in China. It's not. I mean, gosh, it was just watching sad little boys try and play big tough men. You know what I mean? And there was that a few weeks ago. There was a what's his name? Sex trafficker in Romania, Andrew Tate. Did you see he was in that kickboxing
Romanian
fight?
Gollum.
He was in the kickboxing fight and got the shit kicked out of him. My people around the world were celebrating that. It was quite interesting, actually. Yeah, that was.
I mean, that's how I try to live my life, is not to get to the point where if I get smacked in the face, like really bad, and like if I decided to be someone that professed to be really good at fighting, I don't want to get to the place where if I get my ass beat, there's people in multiple continents like cheering for that. That's how I live my life, and it's going very well so far.
The other thing I watched was Begonia. Have you seen Begonia yet?
Yeah, it's
Emma Stone.
A weird film.
It reminded me of some kind of crossover between Fargo and The Lobster. It was that strange sort of duopoly. We won't give the secret twist away, but I picked that in about the first 10 minutes. I was like, what'll happen is, but I enjoyed it, and she got a nomination for the Oscars for that, didn't she? That's why we kind of watched it. It was funny because we were both a bit brain dead after doing all the merch on Saturday, and we went, let's just watch a comedy. Hey, Emma Stone was nominated for this thing. It's obviously a comedy. It says comedy sci-fi. We like comedy and we like sci-fi. Let's watch a light-hearted movie that we don't have to think too much about.
Yeah, so, it isn't that. No, it isn't that. Claire and I, this was her suggestion that she wanted to watch something really gnarly. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And at that moment on the screen, there was a thing for Black Hawk Down, and she was like, let's watch Black Hawk Down, cool. Which seemed to be an appropriate choice for what's going to happen. What is bound to happen? The build-up here, like I know the White House is going, no, we might not be sending in ground troops. They're absolutely sending in ground troops to Karg Island, maybe parts of coastal Iran, and I don't know, man. I wouldn't be real keen on that.
Well, the thing that we're all hearing this because it's commentators and those in the know who are saying it. They reckon if/when they try and take Karg Island, Iran's just going to explode the whole island. Basically, if we can't have it, no one can. And if they do that and explode the whole island, apart from thousands of US military deaths, it will also ruin the oil supply chain for years to come. So, yeah, It's particularly interesting at the moment and slightly freaking out.
Yeah, like I think the comment that came out of the Iranian official channels was, "Sure, go ahead, we'll burn you alive," which seems to be very specific. The other thing that happened for the Americans over the weekend is that they lost one of their AWACS early warning airplanes on the ground. There's only 16 of them, and certainly when Ukraine took out a Russian one, like about a year ago, I was cheering about it, and this is just I can't believe that the Americans had let this happen.
Yeah.
Like, to have one of them on the deck so close to Iran when they're so rare and so important, it's worth $500 million, and they don't have a replacement for it.
Pete says the last one was built in 1992. Mm-hmm. So
Pete also, this is hilarious. He cancelled the program for its replacement.
Yeah.
The Australians have developed their own one, and the Americans would have just literally just put money on the counter and said, "Yes, please, we'll have 20 of them. Just we'll buy the rights to them." And one of the first things that Hegseth did was to cancel that procurement program with nothing to replace it, which is just real big brain stuff. It's probably why I don't understand its true genius.
Well, it's probably quite a fine, not we're going to segue straight away because I've got one thing to talk about first, but into what's happening in New Zealand and the decisions that this government made. For example, the saviour of our energy cycle would be LNG, and we came on air the very first day, literally hours after it, going, so what happens when there's a world conflict and LNG prices go through the roof? And now the government's going, well, we'll only pull the trigger if it's financially worthwhile. So like, it's again, big-brained ideas. Yeah, totally. We'll get to that shortly.
They are setting the scene for going, oh, well, we've considered it and it's not appropriate at this time. And they'll pretend that it's not because we bullied them into it.
I'm going to give us some good news now, though.
How often do we have music? We're going to get copyright struck?
Well, no, because this music has been made for a particular person for a particular reason.
Oh.
Part-time with the Pollies starts on Sunday night, Tanya Waikato's show. First guest is Chloe Swarbrick. It's going to be, I think, fortnightly on Sunday nights. Let me get the text message. And these names have been confirmed. Chloe, Mariameno Kapakingi, which will be fascinating. Marama, Barbara Edmonds, Huhana, Ricardo Menendez March. There's other names in here, but they don't have a green check by them. And Francisco Hernandez. I got there. Hernandez. So we've talked about a show for Tanya for a long time. And it's finally come together. It's called Patai with the Pollies. Patai meaning questions. Patai, question. Questions with the Pollies. It's going to be live streamed. It's going to be here on the Big Hairy Network, wherever you're watching us. And I'm pretty sure Tanya is pretty keen for interaction from the audience as well. It won't run on the same week as the collective, so we'll space them out.
That'd be silly.
That would be silly. But this Sunday night is the first one. Chloe Swarbrick with Tanya Waikato and Patai with the Pollies. So there you go. So that'll be kicking off this weekend. We'll give you more about that. Tanya's going to come and join us probably on Wednesday night as well, just to have a touch base. We haven't touched base with her this year, and to talk a bit more about that. So, there we go. New podcast. Hinted at a new podcast last week. New podcast. And I suspect Tanya will probably be in government, in politics, in Parliament by the end of this year. The preliminary place at number 15 on the list probably gets her in as a Green MP. And so we'll probably have her for this year, and then who knows after the election what may be the place. All right, tonight on the show, the Prime Minister is finally outing himself as New Zealand's CEO, literally referring to himself as a CEO. To which Tova O'Brien and Chewy, it'd be good to have a chat about Tova O'Brien. Started on breakfast this morning. Tova had to remind him that he's actually the Prime Minister after he called himself the CEO. And look, what I want to see happen next, I feel like Tova from today's day one, right? I feel like there was enough kind of cheekiness and kind of nudging that goes to show I'm filled with a bit of confidence that there's going to be some pushback and some good questions from Tova this year. There was a few that were missed, but I don't know. It's pretty arrogant to say she should have said because it doesn't always come to mind. But like one of the ones that was missed was when he called himself the CEO. I want to say to the Prime Minister, what is the definition of a CEO? What does a CEO need to do? Because the actual answer is provide a profit for his shareholders. That's the answer. So that's why the Prime Minister can't be a CEO unless what you're actively saying is we're about making a profit for our shareholders. Who are our shareholders? No, Atlas Network, big business. You know what I mean? So that's why that term doesn't fly for me. We'll talk about that a bit more when we go to play. But also we're all going to have a look at a really interesting conversation having happened on Novara Media out of the UK at the danger of centrists and how terrible centrists are, especially for people on the left. It's a really interesting long form chat. We're not going to watch all of it, but I'm not going to tease anything about that. We'll get to it through the night, and then you should go and watch the conversation yourself. And also, I guess we're talking about the announcements today around fuel and the future of the LNG depot and that kind of stuff as well. So that's us. In fact, I think where we're going to start, Chewy, is the general news today about the announcements for today, because of course what's happening at the moment is people are freaking out going, why is diesel more expensive than petrol? Because now what's happening, obviously, is diesel is the worst value fuel in New Zealand. Because if you buy a litre of 91 for $3.30 or $3.50, your road user charges are within that $3.30. So therefore, when diesel goes higher, let's say it's at $3.50, $3.60, then on top of that, they're paying separate road user charges as well. So this was a part of the conversation today. Why is diesel higher? What's going on? And of course, the most obvious headline of the week was what's going to happen with that LNG. I'm going to say department, the depot, the idea for the factory, for the plant, terminal. The LNG plant, terminal. It's got a terminal diagnosis, is what it's got. See what I did there? Smooth. It would have been smoother if the One News thing had actually played. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to hit refresh, and then it's going to want to play an advert. So just bear with me. And I'll cut all this out when it comes to... oh, well, gosh.
Filling up with diesel sure costs a pretty penny.
No advert.
And our fuel stocks are on the government's radar.
Supplies of petrol, diesel and jet fuel all remain at sufficient levels. I can reassure New Zealand that we are in a good position with health...
Sufficient levels is interesting, eh? It's not good.
Sufficient levels. It's also not... Like, no one's talking about the levels. Right, these guys are very much, it's business as usual because there's enough levels, there's enough capacity. What people are noticing is the price.
Yeah.
They've done nothing around that.
Yeah. Yep, and that conversation comes up, and also Tova is with the Prime Minister. We'll show that later on. That's also a part of her conversation with him as well. Here we go.
Healthy stocks of fuel in country.
We're staying where we are for now.
New Zealand remains in phase 1 of our fuel response plan, but we're continuing to prepare for a move to phase 2 if and when we need to.
Some fear we're behind the 8 ball.
The line from the government in that press conference on Friday was very much, well, we might, and it's okay at the moment, and there's nothing to worry about.
And just remember, if you missed our conversation with Marama last week, she said that, and I'm assuming all political parties, but from the Greens' point of view, the government sent officials, whoever those officials may have been, to the Greens to give them a heads up on what's happening in the fuel situation. And what Marama said was basically they didn't learn anything that you couldn't hear on RNZ. And it was very much of a keep calm and carry on message. Don't panic. I think possibly what the government's trying to do with that sort of messaging is please don't rack up the people. We don't need that smoke. So I think that the government wants to just try and keep their head down and kind of move forward slowly, and they don't want the Greens or Labour or Te Pāti Māori or anyone, taxpayers union. They don't want any of these people to be racking up us, you and I, about what's to come. Because as I said through these conversations as well, there are some countries actually putting things in place right now. So I don't think it says it in this conversation, but level 1 and the phases, notice they don't want to do alert levels like COVID did. They call it phases, not alert levels. The phases that they talk about is not taking excise tax off fuel. And it says somewhere at some point, unless Australia does. Well, guess what Australia did over the weekend? Took some of the excise tax off fuel. But this government's still standing strong. Anyway, let's keep going.
And I think there clearly is something to worry about, and the public aren't stupid.
I'm just quite conscious, though, that if I look at the behaviour around our trading partners from which we get fuel, is that they're increasingly looking more concerned and starting to take actions. That tells me that the time will come soon enough where New Zealand will also have to take those sort of steps.
What do you say to the critics who say we should be moving up those phases faster, we should be rationing our fuel already, given things are looking, pretty dangerous coming up?
I'd say we're doing everything needed to protect fuel security for the future, but actually there's a limit to how much storage we have now. So
everything, though, everything. This is the other thing, and I probably should have got it. I watched a bit of the press conference. Apologise about that freeze frame there, Minister. I watched the press conference, and they're being pretty slippery, because they're basically saying now, we don't really want too much to be saved because we can't store it. And if we can't store it, maybe they'll turn some of the boats around and they'll go somewhere else. So, keep calm and carry on. And they were also talking about, and I do wish I had got it. You talk about CEO speak. The phrase that Nicola used in that press conference, the live press conference, to basically say there's not a nationwide issue with fuel. There's some localized issues with kind of panic buying. And that's why station's running out. Makes complete sense, right? It's valid, makes sense, I get it. But the phrase that she used was like straight from the level 4 CEO PR spin team. It was such a load of PR bullshit. So it continues on, I guess. Yeah.
stopping fuel flowing wouldn't necessarily put us in a better position.
The government is now working on a backup plan, helping source extra fuel from around the world.
This is good. I like this, Chewy. I didn't know this. We're entitled to a certain kind of fuel that we don't use in this country, so we can trade it. I think that's, I mean, like if you want to get props, there's props. I'm not sure, it doesn't say.
We hold fuel tickets
for
fuel types that we don't use here in New Zealand, and they are in demand in other parts of the world, and that is what we are looking to trade for fuel that we would want, in our case, diesel, petrol, jet, obviously.
I mean, like you said, what is it? Somewhere still using CNG in the world, LPG? I don't know. But they have, so we have basically a quota of fuel X that we don't,
oil.
Maybe that we don't use, other countries do, and they can go, yep, hell, we'll take that, and we'll do a swap season. I'm like, good on you. Like, you know, we're never one to congratulate the government when they require congratulating or they deserve it. And that sounds like a pretty good plan. Some horse trading, some literal horse trading, not literal, some bartering to get more fuel over here. I'm for it. That's a good idea.
It will be complicated to convert our 40 days, 960 million litres into fuel. And some might say, are we not interfering with the market? Well, folks, the market's been completely molested by a war in the Middle East.
The war could scupper another project here too.
Sorry,
The government will be...
This is tangential. Can you rewind to him describing the market being molested?
Yes.
And just watch Nicola
Willis. I know. Bit of a smirk, eh?
I don't think she was. I wasn't expecting that.
I thought it was a bit of a laugh. Let's go, shall we?
Case diesel, petrol, jet, obviously.
It will be complicated to convert our 40 days, 960 million litres into fuel. And some might say, are we not interfering with the market? Well, folks, the market's been completely molested by a war in the Middle East.
The war could scupper.
Worth laughing about? Being molested by a war?
Well,
it's the worst kind of molestation.
Look, if he went a little bit further and said, look, the market's already being molested by a molesterer, you know, It's Trump that's done this. Like, I know that fucking Jones loves Trump, but that's kind of shit stirring adjacent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's up there. All right, now we get on to the good news story of the day. LNG. We are going to do a victory lap. Set it literally on day one.
Another project here too.
The government will be progressing an LNG import terminal.
The future terminal, earmarked for Taranaki, was intended to boost energy security.
Intended?
But the war has sent LNG prices rocketing.
If it doesn't stack up, we won't be doing it.
Chewy, who could ever have thought that like a conflict or a war could ruin and up the price of LNG? I mean, that just couldn't, no one ever thought of that, did they? No one said that.
You couldn't script this.
I know.
If you've written this down and go, oh, it's too on the nose, it'll never happen. Look, just like soft pedaling this and go, look, if it doesn't stack up, we won't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has said that this is a bad idea. Everybody. Just pull the pin on it. Stop letting us hit you around the face with it.
You stop kicking him, he's already dead. But they can't do that, because if they do that, then Labor and the Greens in particular will be doing that victory lap. But this is when you go, are you actually wanting what's best for the country, or are you worried about your egos? Are you being precious? Just go,
it's going to happen.
We got that wrong. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Look, you don't have to consult the tea leaves. It is going to happen. This is not going to stack up, because we are looking at a year or more disruption. Like, well, if Trump goes into Kharg Island, if he goes into Iran, it spreads. It gets worse. But even if it stops tomorrow, the Saudis, the Emirates, and Qatar, and all that sort of stuff still have to put together their ruined facilities, the ones that have copped drone and rocket strikes. They still have to fix it. It is going to be a year or more before we get to business as usual.
I wonder as well, when you often talk about front loading, if the Prime Minister actually just got out now and, the CEO, that's what I've been thinking today. We should start calling, no longer call him Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, it should be CEO Christopher Luxon. He called himself it. Talking about front loading the issues. Now, wouldn't it be better to come out now and actually say, yep, we're not going to do it. That was wrong. Moving on, rather than saying we'll address it. Gets closer to the election, it gets closer to, and then it's like August. And then they pull out of it, and then it's right near the election.
He's incapable of it. Like from this morning, I saw him commenting on future military actions in the Strait of Hormuz and whether we're going to be involved with it. And like he took about 5 paragraphs to say we haven't been asked and we wouldn't really be open to it. Yeah. But at no point was there a definitive statement from our Prime Minister of no, we will not be deploying forces to the region when we haven't been asked, and even if we were asked, no.
Yeah. All right, keep going to the end, eh?
If it doesn't stack up, we won't be doing it.
At the end of the day, it is critical that the government is finally waking up and realising how much of a daft decision this was.
And as the war goes on, the pain at the pump continues.
There you go, Chewy. Story number 1, pain at the pump continues. It was pretty shocking to see, that guy filling up with diesel. He was at about 90 litres and he was over $300. It is actually shocking, the amount, especially for diesel at the moment, but for everything, for everybody. I mean, I was talking to my wife this afternoon and she went, do you think I should go fill up again? And I went, dude, you've got like 80% in your tank. She's like, yep, no, you're okay. That's fine. Yeah. Just, we don't worry about it today. It's fine.
Like and this is the thing. Like people do that when they're unsure of things. Like nothing that the government has done has reassured people.
Yeah, true.
And like this whole thing, like people will study this because this is an absolute masterclass in crisis non-management. They're trying so hard to position themselves as not doing what Labor did in a crisis that they're not doing anything good. Like they've tried to reassure about our fuel supplies that we're not running out. But again, it's not what people are focused on. They're focused on the price. what they should have done from day fucking one, because they haven't got a crystal ball, is to treat this as the worst case scenario. Bring in rationing and price caps and ring fence diesel use to like critical needs, right? We've still got fucking Johnny Tight Pants real estate agent driving around in his Ford Raptor Wildtrak. He's got money to fill up with diesel, while farmers are wondering whether there's going to be enough to bring the crops in, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I freely admit, I don't know how you would put it out there that go, if you need diesel, you need to prove that you're from a critical industry. You know, but these guys have done nothing. Their whole thing is, we've come up with 4 levels, and we're not gonna even call them like it's COVID, because it's not COVID, guys. It's not a COVID response.
No.
Like even Luxon today said, you're not going to be working from home baking sourdough. Nobody said there's going to be a fucking lockdown, my dude. What the hell are you talking about? And everything that they're talking about, like Chris Bishop on social media, every time he's putting out something, he's referencing COVID. He's referencing that we're not going to make public transport free, and we're not going to take tax off petrol, because that's what the other lot did, and that caused inflation, which again is wrong. And he's either lying and knows he's lying, or he's an idiot and also lying. You know, it's the comparison is crazy. They're so concerned with people linking the responses that they're doing it for us.
No, but why they're concerned is because they've spent 3 years saying, wasn't that terrible? And so if people start to go, this is spooky. This is kind of like the thing that you guys are doing, that thing that you've said that was terrible. So they've actually created the environment for people to be very suspicious of things like mandates and of phases, 4 phases to be precise. And now they're being desperate to kind of go, it's nothing alike. It's not, this is nothing. They're completely separate. It's like chalk and cheese. They're nothing alike at all.
So as far as those phases, right, they put out their document, here are the 4 phases. I read them. Phase 1 and 2 are basically the same thing with a small change in language. And phases 3 and 4 are the same. They're saying the same thing with a slight change in phrasing. It's fucking weird. But, Pat, if I could put on my conspiracy hat, handcrafted from tinfoil, and that I actually don't have any tinfoil in the house, otherwise I would have made a conspiracy hat. Do you think that National's internal polling is so bad that they think they might leave the government, and they want to leave basically a poison pill for the guys that replace them? And a barely managed fuel crisis that they know is going to blow up in their face when the left bloc get in and they look at what's going on and they go, holy shit, you guys have fucked this up, and now we have to make some really drastic measures.
The reason I would push back on your conspiracy theorist is that I don't think any polls show that dire a result for them. Even internally.
Their internal polls that they have to send to England for interpretation, those ones.
But even internally, I mean, we've heard from some people who say they're in the know that when that poll came out, it had them at 28, their internal polling had them at 32. I think, Chewy, if it was, the one coming up, well, I mean, I was going to say it doesn't even work because they weren't in power. I was going to say the one coming up to COVID, but where Labor got all the seats. If the then opposition National Party could have done something to scuttle something, they might have. But I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
Is that too dark and evil?
Well, it could be that kind of thing. Like, you know how like, for example, you've got an appliance at home that's a bit dicky. that you got to hold your tongue a certain way and plug it in, not all the way in, like a millimeter up before it'll actually work properly. And if you want to be a dick, you can plug it in properly and then other people can't use it. Like, unless there was something that they're like, we know how to solve this problem, they won't, let's make the problem. And if we get back in, we'll solve it. But that's like 4D chess. I don't know if they're capable of that.
So these are the two options though, right? They're being terribly pessimistic and bleak, and setting traps rather than actually run the country. Or they're being so incompetent over a wide spectrum of government that it just looks like a conspiracy.
Yeah. So either is a conspiracy or they're operating badly enough to make it look like one. So neither of those results are good.
As far as the fuel crisis that we're looking at, it doesn't matter. I just want to say they are just talking about, yep, we're not going to run out of fuel. If you can't afford the fuel, then it doesn't matter how much we've got on the way and how much we've got in the country, right? For some people, there are critical fuel shortages now because they can't afford to put fuel in their car, or they're worried about, am I going to pay rent, buy food, or have enough in the car to go to work? Now, there's been no or barely any support offered by the government. 140,000 families get $50 a week. Now, the way that fuel is climbing, that just does fuck all.
Well, it does something, but you're right, it doesn't do much. Something's better than nothing. But
it doesn't do much.
The thing that I'm struggling with at the moment, well, there's lots of things, and I think the Prime Minister / CEO might have said it this morning, we'll double check. He talks about helping out the vulnerable, and he may have even said the most vulnerable. And the truth is, no, you're not. The most vulnerable are not being helped. I'm not saying that young families, parents with young kids, I'm not saying they don't deserve help or they don't need help, but they're not the most vulnerable. Come with us in Dunedin. We'll go to the Oval and look at the people in tents. Let's go to a retirement complex where retirees have one heater on in their bedroom and they spend winter basically in bed to stay warm. They're the most vulnerable. And for them, there's nothing. That's my big concern.
I'm telling you now that a responsible government would have put price caps and a restriction on how much per week people could get. And it would have been, I don't know. But it's the price of it is more important than the amount of it at this stage.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some super chats and then we'll move into Novara Media because it's a really interesting conversation. Mm-hmm. Laura says the super chat is worth less than a litre of fuel. Citizen Gold 222 number 22 for 2 days and we vote early, vote often. Vote often as long as we're meaning
often as in every election
or like every day, because just saying, I'm just saying. Another one from Gold. This super chat is worth more than Luxon's integrity.
That super chat could be 50 cents and that statement's still true.
Integrity Farms. 8 Vasta says, calling out John Key, like a lot on the right who thought Trump was the better candidate, even his economic policies have all come out as shite. Yeah, we played that, didn't we? John Key saying that he thought that Trump was the better choice for the economy, honestly. Exaldia, we are currently at phase 1, do nothing. Are we ready to go to phase 2, do nothing, but with more urgency? I was just reading those. Because someone in the chat said we should be at 3 already. I mean, I guess
that's what I'm talking about. Fuel restrictions and limits and a price cap. Now,
and it would be easy. It would be easier to say only you can't. Like we said this last week. No jerry cans, no extra cans to fill up. Just the gas going into your tank. And yes, could someone still get around it by getting home and siphoning the fuel? And yeah, they could. But I mean, 9 people out of 10, 99 people out of 100 aren't going to do that.
Look, petrol stations have license plate recognition cameras, right? So they can track drive-offs and that sort of thing. I'm sure that there's a way that they could do that off the license plates.
Geez, now you're going into blooming conspiracy theory, mate. They're going to link them all together with a national
I'm
database
just
and
saying.
track them in real time, right? And then I'm going to become magnetic, and then it's going to be like, the Lord will come back or something like that, which comes next. I don't know.
It's funny. Like I put some of these things on. Bishop had a video on Facebook the other day, but just basically answering someone's question of like, why don't you take excise tax off fuel? And he's like, oh, good and fair question. It's because it goes into the land transport fund, and we can't stop money going into there because it's for roads, and we love roads. And it's like, yeah, okay, so that's one thing, but why is it that you are not doing anything else? So there's no caps on how much people can take in a week. There's no price caps. You're not doing anything for public transport. In the medium term, you're not looking at moving up ruck for all personal vehicles. You're not looking at any of these other things. And then in the long term, you're also not looking at electrifying our national fleet or moving away from fuel in any way. So you are actually doing basically nothing. And I will keep you updated for when Christopher Bishop will get back to me on these things that I've said to him.
Look, I think
I'll just check now.
The more and more and more and more and more they don't end up doing what I'm about to suggest, the more convinced I am that actually they are doing it because they've got no money. Like, I just think the reason that they're not, they're not going to take any tax off or do anything like that is simply because they don't have the ability, because they don't have any money. Everything's empty. Everything. There's no funds, there's no money. And because there's no money, for example, okay, so let's stop paying excise tax for the roads for a while, but they've got no money to stop paying for a while. They have to get every cent in because they've given away billions, as we know, say it after me, people, to landlords, to big tobacco, and in tax cuts. So they've got no money to basically lean on to do any significant cuts.
Look, when you have the fucking Tories in England suggesting that they take VAT, so their version of GST, off fuel for the next 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
You've got Australia saying that they're going to take excise tax off for the next couple of months. And then you've got our guy saying, well, we couldn't possibly do that. That's just stupid. Why are you bringing that up? Like, I am sure, I haven't checked on this, Pat, maybe you can remember as well. What were National's comments around the petrol price spike around COVID when Labor took the excise tax off? Were they going, it's not enough, you should do more for the hardworking Kiwi battler?
Well, they certainly said that about lots of things, so it wouldn't surprise me. All right. Anything else? Oh, there's a couple more super chats there. Sports ball from 15mm. New Zealand smashed Chile 4-1. Earthling Steve says, and military Chewy, is the US going to shaft us on our military purchases like they've done Sweden? And another one from 15mm. Chewy, right. This is Nationals COVID. The messaging bad, and they don't know what to do. Luxon is Oz PM Scott Morrison.
Yeah. And I've just looked up what I wrote on Bishop's comments, and I said, look, you can't take excise tax off fuel. Fine, let's take that as a given. You could be encouraging fuel conservation, you could be encouraging carpooling, you could be encouraging work from home, and you could put free public transport in the short term. Those are all things that they could do fucking this week, right? None of that is really invasive. None of that is really going to cost a lot of money.
All right.
And then you could speed up the move to rucks for all passenger vehicles in the medium term. You could also pull your head from your ass and stop playing politics around what the clean car rebate was actually there to do. Disincentivize wasteful, dirty vehicles and incentivize clean ones, and then that would feed through the second-hand market as well. For every EV on the road, we would have to import less fuel. And then, in the long term, you look at how we transport things around this country, how we farm and move to electrify everything that we can. That would insulate us from whatever is happening overseas. Every piece is another piece in the puzzle.
And also, just as a reminder, I'm sure people know this, but the clean car discount wasn't just on EVs. If you were a vehicle that was very you had very good fuel consumption, it would apply to those. Like I think Suzuki Swifts were on there as well. So you'd either be getting EVs, as Chewy, you're saying, it's less fuel to take out, or you'll be getting cars that are more fuel efficient, i.e. using less fuel.
National's objection to that and the ute tax was purely about vote getting. Like I can't see, like when they're punishing farmers. Well, they're punishing farmers that are going out there and choosing a really dirty, inefficient vehicle, right? So those guys want that, cool. They can pay extra. But there was a benefit to everything in that program, but they put it down to ute tax, funding wealthy people buying Teslas. And they know that because their boss did it twice. But that affected second-hand Leafs coming into the country. They were cheaper. It's like these guys should wear this proudly, that they politicized something that would be helping us right now.
I was just looking. Sorry, a little bit of a tangent here. There must be something going on with YouTube, because there's like hardly anybody in the live right now, unless the numbers are wrong. Like YouTube says they've got 49 people watching us. We've often got several hundred. I wonder if it's just a glitch on the YouTube. Shout out to chat. Chat, does it feel any slower there today? It could just be a glitch in showing the number, as opposed to the number being such a short one.
Yeah,
no, anyway,
54 people. Yeah. I mean, I didn't share the links on my personal Facebook page. That could be why.
That'll be what it is for sure. We're on a fast track to stagflation, says Pete. Yeah, that'll be it. So a chat. Does it look like it's the normal speed? No, slightly slow. Okay. All right. Oh, I see it's going there. All right. It doesn't really matter. We just wonder. I was just wondering, Chewy. I was just wondering. I'd love to share this conversation with you. Sometimes we do a commentary on the commentators. That's what we kind of talk about. And this one's going to be a bit different. There's a very good, it doesn't involve Mehdi Hassan, but it feels like these are all his mates from the UK, officially or not. A group called Novara Media. They do some very, very good stuff. We have shown them before a couple of times. And they had a conversation a couple of days ago in the weekend, our time, around how centrists have lost the argument on Israel. And we're not going to show all of this to you, but I have got like 4 clips. This first one's a couple of minutes, then we're only a minute after that. And I won't release it quite now as to why centrists are dangerous. This is my word, not theirs. Especially dangerous for the left, especially enlightened centrists. We're going to hear from Tucker Carlson in this conversation. Novara Media are actually commenting on another interview. So we're going to watch Novara comment on another interview. So we're going to comment on the people commenting on the interview. And it is Tucker Carlson talking to the editor of The Economist. And what I've done is I've left the introduction to this clip in there because I just thought rather than me explaining what The Economist was, we should have the host here explain what The Economist is. And then they're going into a conversation between the editor of The Economist and Tucker Carlson. And let's have a look.
The Economist is almost 200 years old. It's one of the most prestigious magazines in the English language. But when its editor-in-chief interviewed Tucker Carlson, she crumbled.
Clearly, I think you and I agree, we have both been critical of the Israeli government. I just want to kind of clarify terms a bit here.
Well, I've really been critical of the Israeli government.
I've been plenty critical of the Israeli government. I've told you at the beginning that we were against this war.
What do you think of Gaza?
What do I think of Gaza?
Question.
I think the war in Gaza, to start with, was a perfectly reasonable response in response to the horrors of October 7th. I think now the places, I've been there. Have you been to Gaza? I've been to Gaza since.
So just for context, to make sure, in this conversation, she, obviously, not him, is the centrist. Right? She is the centrist in this conversation.
the war started.
And it does go big. Well, have you ever been there? Have you ever been there? Yeah, of course, you've had a guided tour by the IDF showing you what they wanted to show you.
It's catastrophic.
Trust me, very few journalists get into Gaza.
Yeah, no, I went with the IDF. It's the only way that you can go in, but nonetheless, you go in and you see a flattened place. I think it is a disaster for the future of Israel, a disaster for the Palestinian people, a horror, 70,000 people dead.
Why would you describe it first as a disaster for the future of Israel? You've got tens of thousands of civilians murdered, but it's foremost a disaster for the future of Israel? No, it's foremost a disaster for the families of the dead kids.
Absolutely. I made 3 points.
Because everybody sucks up to Israel in this way that suggests they're afraid. And everyone is afraid, and you know that. Everyone's like, the real...
Now, Chewy, we've said several times about several people, it's really uncomfortable sometimes when this person, who we feel diametrically opposed to, is saying the right things.
And I 100% question the reasons why he's saying this.
But the reason you're questioning it is exactly why I will reveal as we go through. Centrists are dangerous, right? I'll get back to it. I'll explain it to you at the end of this clip, which has only got about another 45 seconds.
Problem is calling people anti-Semites allows real anti-Semites to flourish. It's like, no, actually the real problem with calling people anti-Semites who aren't is accusing the innocent of a crime they didn't commit. And the real crime in Gaza is killing people who did nothing wrong. So those are the real problems, I would say. But no one can say it because you have to be like, oh no, but really October 7th
I don't know what you're talking about, Kaz. We're having a...
Everyone watching this knows what I'm talking about.
It is true. Everyone watching it does know what he's talking about. I mean, you know, it's a shame watching Tucker Carlson in an interview and thinking that he's coming across as the more reasonable person. There's many unreasonable things about him, which we'll sort of talk about later when we talk about what this means for centrism and liberalism, that it's getting snookered by a man like Tucker Carlson.
So, to not to bury the lead too much, what he just said then, right, the host said then, it's about, there's more clips to come, but I'll lay it out for you now so people don't have to wait till the end to go, why are we watching Tucker Carlson?
It's already happened.
He just said that centrists get snookered by people like Tucker Carlson. So the reason that centrists are dangerous is because they give people like Tucker Carlson the ability to sound moderate, the ability to sound like they're on the right side of history. Whereas we all know why Tucker Carlson is for Gaza. It's because of a little thing called being against Israel in the Jewish community, right? And a few of those words around there for it. We all know why people like, her name just went out of my head, sorry, Laura Ingraham, these sorts of people who push back on things like Israel. And it's not because they are pro-Palestinian or they want to see the genocide end. It's because they want, for every opportunity they can, to see harm come to, air quotes, because it's not my way of saying it, but the Jews. And so a centrist who will sit in the center and go, I can see a bit of her, 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 allows someone with abhorrent views to sound like they're saying the right thing, but they're not saying it for the right reason. Candace Owens, exactly right. So I've got some notes which say, Chewy, I wonder how often, and I'm going to keep this in the back of my mind from now on, we say, oh God, it's horrible when such and such is saying the right thing. I want us to keep an eye on that in the future. And if there is a centrist involved with that conversation, whether the person's saying the right thing, it will be interesting to me. So basically you're allowing Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, others like them, to basically take what appears like a progressive position via an anti-Semitic background. And that's one of the things that makes centrists quite dangerous, and it makes them quite dangerous for the left as well, Chewy. There's some more clips to play, but that's kind of the crux of this whole conversation that these two from Novara Media are talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It's really uncomfortable when Tucker Carlson is saying good things for shitty reasons, but he's still nailing it better than an establishment media person's comment. I mean, when she tried to basically go right down the middle and go, well, I can understand why Gaza happened and it was the right reaction, and then now it's horrible. And, you know, of course I've been to Gaza. I went with the IDF.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The Novara Media guys, they moved on and they showed a little bit about the centrist, because the Economist, because she was saying, you know, about how she's been opposed to this, and they've written about being opposed to it. I won't show you the clips now, but they showed headlines like "Why Israel Must Fight On" was one of their headlines. Charging Israel with genocide makes a mockery of the ICJ. So this Economist magazine in and of itself doesn't seem to be particularly against what's going on, as the editor is claiming right now. There's another really interesting conversation, and I'll be honest with you. Tucker Carlson is saying these things for very different reasons. But I've never heard this conversation before, and it really intrigues me. And it's something that I'm going to delve more into in my own time. And it's something that I think, after I do my own research and do a bit of looking around, it's something I could very easily see myself asking of other people. And it's a question that Tucker Carlson asks. The centrist, who has put him in a position of authority in the Israel conversation because they're a centrist. And that is on the Israel has the right to exist.
You are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What does that mean, a right to exist?
The existence of the political...
Just that question. Just that question. What does it mean, the right to exist? And I'm not going to cut too much into it right now. And he's going to go into a bunch of conversations through this last kind of clip in a bit about what other country do we even use that language for? What do you mean, right to exist?
It's such a good counter question.
I know. And I'll put my hand up there. So I've never really thought of that before. And we're going to let Tucker, because he's talking to a centrist, spit some more truth, for want of a better word. Maybe the wrong word to use.
State of Israel, as
but
it
has
existed.
a right. What does that mean?
But you think it should continue in its existence as a state right now. So you do not agree with Iran, for example.
Well, let me just ask, since you asked me the question, it's fair for me to get you to define the term so I can answer it. You've asked two questions. The first was, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And the second question was, do you believe Israel should continue to go on as a nation state? And those are very different questions. So I often hear the phrase...
Having been created as a political entity in 1948,
does it have a right to exist? Is that what you're asking?
I don't want to get hung up on the right to
Should it
continue to exist? That's how I define narrowly Zionism.
Because the phrase you used was devised by the Israeli government.
Yes.
Of course. Does it have a right to exist? And so
Chewy, you just gave an emphatic yes to Tucker Carlson. You should turn your mic off probably, mate.
This has been a whole thing, that you never hear any other country described in the same way. Does X country have a right to exist?
Yeah.
And Carlson is correct in this. And that is because it was a question created and framed by Zionists to defend Israel. We never talk about other countries like, does America have the right to exist?
Well, that's the exact conversation. That's the exact conversation. We'll get 30 more seconds on this, and I've got one more shorter clip to play after it.
Question to you would be, what does that mean?
Why don't you answer my question? It's a very simple question.
I don't know what your question is. Are you asking, does it have a right to exist, or do I want it to exist? Do I seek its destruction?
Fine, answer it that way.
Well, of course I don't seek its destruction.
Okay,
I've already said, as you know, because I said it to you, I don't want Israel to be destroyed or have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms a Zionist. If that's how
I'm in no sense a Zionist. I don't want any country to be destroyed at all, and I don't want people to die, particularly ones who committed no crime, because I don't believe in killing innocents, period. That's the basis of Western civilization.
So...
he lost me at the end there. He lost. No, Western civilization never kills innocents.
Yeah.
Really, Tucker? What country are you from, bud?
Let's just roll into the last clip. It's only 60 seconds, and they're just going to finish up that conversation around the right to exist. And then I promise, baby birds, Tucker Carlson will go off your screens. You won't feel challenged by the big bad man anymore.
My question is, what right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries. Now that countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first thing that Israel did within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, was take southern Lebanon, take someone else's country, as they have done repeatedly. And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that, because I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we start apportioning rights, only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely putting words into my mouth.
So because I believe, here's what I do believe, since you asked, I believe in universally applicable standards. And if they're not universally applicable, they're not standards, they're preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights than anyone else. I don't think Christians have more rights or less rights, blacks, Filipinos. I believe in human rights that derive from the creation of people by God.
Yeah. I mean, so there's going to be lots of things that you disagree with, but that question back, what do you mean by right? And the response, does Gaza have the right to exist? And we're hearing that from Tucker Carlson. And look, I'm sure there's lots of smarter people out there. We're probably, even with these people watching, still the dumbest people in the room. But I hadn't thought of that before. I hadn't thought of it that way before. This whole commentary, right? And I'll just show you the screen grab again so you can go and have a look at it. There you go. Just look up Novara Media. Centrists have lost the argument on Israel. It's all based around the idea that because they've lost the argument on Israel, they allow people with abhorrent views around the Jewish community to come in and sound like they're on the right side of history because they have views against the Jewish community. So centrists make that argument possible, which is why the centrists are I can see this, I can see that. And then you get someone with, I mean, you talked about human rights. Do we really want to go into that with Tucker Carlson? I believe in human rights. Sure. Whatever.
Yeah, look, Tucker Carlson is a white supremacist, and it very much America first. And for lack of a better term, I get that. I understand where, especially the America First stuff comes from. His version of America First, though, is a white America.
Yeah.
And he doesn't believe that America should be doing the world police, shouldn't be waging foreign wars and that sort of thing. And I can understand that point of view. But he dog walked that woman in that interview. Absolutely, I've got to give him credit here, with some very simple pushback.
If you didn't know that was Tucker Carlson,
yeah,
and you
if
saw
that was your first
script,
time seeing him,
if you read the script of what was said with no names on it, I suspect most people here would be down for 98% of what Tucker Carlson just said. But the reason he's able to say it to her, and this is what that clip is about from Novara Media, is she's a centrist going goods and bads, to make him sound like he's on the right side of history for the right reason. And he's saying the right things for the right side, from the right side of history, but he's saying it from a place of white supremacy.
Yeah. And look, you look back on his career, it is obvious. He hasn't hidden it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But again, if this is an interview with a more legitimate media source and this is how people first come across him, they might be fooled by going, oh, this is a reasonable person talking about reasonable things. And that is where it's dangerous. Tucker, for decades, has taught white supremacists how to speak and not tip their whole hat about what they're after, about how to couch their language. And he's still doing that now, because here, what Israel has done here is gifted, true, more than anti-Semites, Jew haters. They've given them a gift
Yeah.
You're not criticizing Jews, you're criticizing Israel. And then that puts them in the same ground that we are in, where we are criticizing the government of Israel. And that makes things very messy.
It looks like you're aligned with Tucker Carlson. Because the words are similar.
I don't like it.
Well, and just remember, did we show something last week? I sometimes forget about what I've talked to someone about, what we've shown, about how Benjamin Netanyahu is possibly the most dangerous reason for Jews around the world at the moment. Because what he's doing, what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing, is putting Jews around the world in danger. Because people are looking to people of Israel, be they secular or religious, as being associated with this man. And his actions and the IDF's actions are a bigger reason for risks of Jews around the rest of the world than almost anything else. And so Tucker Carlson can get on this and make it look like he's on the side of the Palestinians and the good Jews, my words, not his, and doing it from a place of white supremacy and anti-Semitism makes him look like he is reasonable. In fact, more than reasonable, Chewy, it's that he is on the right side of history. I can't think of a better way to say it than that.
Yeah.
For the right reasons.
Look, I think there is an answer to that question of, do you agree that X country has a right to exist? And Vampire Matt here, 101 here, no country has a right to exist. People have a right to exist. All groups of people have a right to it. The Jews have a right to exist. The Palestinians have a right to exist. You know, that sort of thing. The country is always a political construct. It's lines on a map. You know, if your neighboring country decides that you don't have a right to exist, you have to fight for that right.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then the Gazans are allowed to take up armed resistance. This has been discussed. This has been discussed in the UN, that if you're an oppressed people, you have a right to take up arms. It's like I saw, you know, with Israel invading Lebanon, and they may have, and I'm wanting to find some confirmation on this, they might have got their ass kicked a little bit, the Israelis. But they are describing the people, the people in southern Lebanon defending their homeland as terrorists at the same time as the Israeli government is going into its final vote on whether to extend the death penalty towards people convicted of terrorism.
I would encourage everyone as well to go and check out that clip, Novara Media, because truly they talk about that as well. It's actually quite a good clip. They talk about, has South Sudan got the right to exist, which is the world's newest country, and then they talk about Croatia and Yugoslavia. Did Yugoslavia have a right to exist? Then it became Croatia and other countries as well. So, yeah, the point that gets made on that is about the people's right to live and to, you know, that sort of thing. So it's just such a simple little comeback. And like I said, I'm not one to take on people's tricks of the game and then use them, but I'm going to do a bit of work on that because I am interested in the Israel's way of communicating. Like, does Israel have the right to exist? And they're the ones who are communicating it, and that communication has got through to everyone. And I just think that's such an interesting point. You know, what do you mean by right? You know, even that question, what do you mean by right? I think if anyone got asked that, who asked any of us that question, they'd go, well, you know, the right. What do you mean by right? It's just interesting. All right, let's get some super chats, and we're going to go see our hairless leader as we wrap up the show. Congrats to Arya Black, graduated from Quality Improvement Advisor for Health New Zealand. Te whatu ora, improve. Yes, congratulations. Thank you for that public notification, Kiwi Skirt. XLDS says all three split from Trump, stopped getting APAC. All three. Which three were we talking about? Sorry, that split from Trump. What have I forgotten already? All three. Obviously, politicians split from Trump, stopped getting APAC money. Or are we talking about Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Laura Ingraham? Those three, maybe. Are the three we're talking about. Correction, APAC. Very good. All right. Oh, already shown that. Liked it so much we showed it twice. Hey, before we go on to the next thing, I want to show you something. We've talked about AI a little bit in this conversation, and I'm just going to show you how stupid someone must have to be to fall for AI some of the time. So Tony Street has recently had a baby, I think, and her image is being doctored to sell weight loss pills.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, real cool, eh? So Tony Street, she's doing radio announcing now, and they're done that. They're using fake images of her to try and sell their I don't know, snake oil. And one of the points she said is, it's how fast AI is moving. It was more urgent to get reporting processes set up. That's probably fair as well. But there's one part of this thing, when you think about AI being kind of that good, right? And AI being sort of that good. And then Stuff chose to show another AI story, and they felt the need, Chewy, to put at the front of it, warning, this is a scam. And I just want to see, Chewy, if like me, this would have fooled you. I'm very lucky that I was told this was a scam, Chewy, because I thought this was real. So in some instances, AI's got a ways to go.
Prime Minister, recently, New Zealanders have seen many advertisements featuring you personally, where you guarantee an income of $35,000 per month through the Quantum AI platform. Some are calling it a scam, while others claim they've earned even more than $35,000. Who should people believe if they want to join and start receiving passive income automatically?
Jesus.
Don't click on suspicious links. The link below this video is official, and by using it, you truly can earn, I guarantee it. The project is supported by the New Zealand government and the cabinet.
I will just leave it there. So I'm just making sure you're clear, Chewy. That's AI. That's not real. Are you aware that's not real?
I'm aware. Are my older relatives aware? No, they had to check with me. They get a pass because they asked someone else. But there are people, and I have interacted with them, that 100% believed that this was an investment thing endorsed by the Prime Minister.
That's interesting what Noah says. AI can't do Kiwi accents. No one can do Kiwi accents. Like, honestly, is there any actor anywhere ever that's tried to do a Kiwi accent and has been able to pull it off on screen? Like, ever.
And this is what I'll say about AI, can't pull it off for now.
Yeah, true.
Like, that was pretty close.
No, it sounded English.
Yes, it was.
No.
It was close. It'll get better. This is the whole thing. We're training. We're learning. The ones that we point at and go, that's AI. They go, cool. So we know that one doesn't work. We'll try again. We'll do better. We'll grab more voice samples. You know, can't rely. Don't be comfortable with this stuff. Is what I'm saying.
I don't think
always be suspicious.
I didn't think Anthony Hopkins was all that great. It was okay, but it wasn't great. Do you know, it's quite. People who are international, like tourists and that kind of stuff, and they ask, are you a New Zealander or Australian? It's like, it's actually really easy to tell. New Zealanders swallow their vowels. So fish, we swallow the I. Fish, chips. Australians elongate their vowels. Fish, chips, they make their vowels longer. We swallow ours. They elongate them.
Training the AI, Pat.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm here for. I'm just here for the AI, Chewy. That's the only reason I'm here. Well, in saying all of that then, Chewy, how do we know, how can we know if this is real or not? Like what guarantees can we give to our audience that this was really on the television this morning? Because maybe it's AI. How do we know? We don't. So take it with a grain of salt. Prime Minister was on breakfast this morning, and there's a bunch of stuff they were talking about. I've got some shorter clips at the end, but I want to play you a couple of bits and bobs. And the first one is about Iran and about the military, the New Zealand military being called in to Iran, and if we ever would be. Yes, I think that's it. What's the next one? No, yeah, and also this is There's a moment missed here by her name's just jumped out of my head. Tova, got it. There's a moment missed here by Tova where they start talking about the letter, and the letter that was previously written up. Because in this moment, what I desperately want the Prime Minister to be asked is, yes, Mr. Prime Minister, you wrote a letter condemning the actions of Iran in the Strait. Why have you not said anything about the actions of Israel and America and their illegal bombing of Iran to start with? So that was missed again. I'm hoping someone gets it out there one day. But let's have a listen about the calls or not for New Zealand military to head to Iran.
Are we leaving the door open? Are you leaving the door open to some kind of military defence or intelligence support?
We haven't been. Essentially, this was independent action by the Americans and the Israelis. We were not given any heads-up advice on it. We haven't had any subsequent debriefing about any of it, so we have no clearer view as to where they're going with their objectives than anybody else.
Are you leaving the door open to some kind of New Zealand support?
We're not going to be asked, and it's not something we'd be up for. The statement that we signed last weekend was really talking about...
Go, Chewy.
When you lead with a statement of, we're not going to be asked, that takes away from our agency to make the decision of this is not something we want to be involved in, which is a stronger comment.
He does kind of get there eventually. I'll push play, and then I'm actually going to leave my computer and go and turn my camera off, so I won't be able to stop it again until the end. So let's have a listen to the Prime Minister.
I think 28 other countries, was just saying, hey, listen, this Strait of Hormuz, which is a really tight piece of water, which typically 125 ships go through each and every day, you've now got about 3,500 ships stuck in that region that actually we're saying to the Iranians, you've got to be able to let these ships come through, because actually indiscriminate attacks on those ships is against the freedom of navigation, which is one of the rules-based systems that we have.
Yeah, get that. You said in that statement, though, that we're ready to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. So what could we contribute? What would that look like?
It was more about, the primary piece of that statement, just so we're clear, was all about condemning Iran on ships and attacking oil tankers trying to make their way through.
Yeah, so why the fuck would they listen to us?
But also, yes, as we just said, we know that was the statement. You're condemning Iran. Sure, fine, good. I'm okay with that. But what about the original conversation? What about the actions of America and Israel that were clearly illegal? We're very quiet about that. Very quiet about that, Mr. Luxon.
And actually think about how we get safe passage of ships so we can get fuel prices down at the pump here in New Zealand. The second part is there was a conversation, I think events end up overtaking it pretty quickly, which was if there was any future multilateral action that was needed, and no one knows what that could look like, and there hasn't been further discussion about that.
So is there a world in which our Navy goes up the guts of the Strait of Hormuz?
I don't think so. We haven't been asked for our...
We're not
a regional central player to that. There hasn't been, subsequent to the statement, any further conversations about what multilateral action could look like to secure that strait.
Okay. There you go, Chewy. So there's clip number one. Kind of eventually got there. I do sometimes wonder with politicians when they don't just give a straight out answer. I mean, I'm not trying to be gracious, the Prime Minister, but sometimes if you nail down a Prime Minister and then circumstances change, then the media can go, but you said, and I wonder if that's got any, or is it just his marketing CEO-ness coming out where everything has to be I'm jellyfish. It's like nailing jelly to the wall, as they say, and that's all it's ever going to be.
Here's a jellyfish in a blue suit.
Yeah.
Like, he can't make a definitive moral standpoint of like, no, we weren't consulted. Before the Americans went in, we don't agree with the actions that have been taken. We strongly disapprove of Israel's targeting of civilian or energy infrastructure. And it is not our role. And we're not going to be asked. Should be the last thing mentioned, not the first.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much latitude for a Prime Minister, the head of a country, to make a diplomatic statement here, and he does nothing.
Maybe he's not a Prime Minister, though. Maybe we'll get to that shortly. Let's get to another clip now for you from Breakfast. This is about removing the tax on fuel, and he brings up the idea about looking after the vulnerable. I don't know if it's this clip where he says most vulnerable, but at some stage during Breakfast, he did use the phrase most vulnerable.
On the home front and some of the support that you have announced, or perhaps lack thereof, in some people's views, can I confirm that you are...
I got to say, there's a few moments in this where Tova gets a little in, like the support or lack thereof, as some people will say. We'll just move past that and keep talking, she goes.
perhaps lack thereof in some people's views. Can I confirm that you are not going to reduce or cut GST on fuel or diesel?
That's not one of the plans that we've got at the moment. I guess if I take a step back, there's sort of three buckets. One is you've got to keep the fuel supply coming. That's why I've been hitting the phones hard with the leaders so that we get share of mind of New Zealand from those refinery places. The second thing is you have to imagine a world ultimately as good as our situation is today, that in a few months' time we've got some challenges and our fuel supply is disrupted. So how we think about dealing with that. And the third thing, exactly as you've just said, is how do you get support to people who are doing it really tough? Because, and I have to be really straight up and say, we're not going to be able to alleviate the pressure for everybody. We've got a lot of lessons out of COVID that we have to make sure that we internalise, which is we have to be economically responsible. Any support we do has to be timely, targeted and temporary. That was the mistake of COVID. So we could continue to monitor.
How much do we hate that? I mean, Nicola
That was
will
the
have said it
mistake of
4
COVID.
times today. But timely, targeted and temporary. Like, I understand targeted and I understand temporary. I'm sure he fucking waxed in his pants when he thought, what about timely? There's another T. And that's all it basically took. But yeah, I thought the danger of COVID, the issue with COVID was people dying. But no, apparently it's not. Apparently
Or
it
losing their houses.
Or losing
their
their houses.
jobs. Or
Yeah,
businesses folding and collapsing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't think so.
those were the mistakes of COVID.
Temporary. That was the mistake of COVID. So we could continue to monitor which other groups of New Zealanders are vulnerable, but we keep looking at it through those lenses.
And I think with the GST thing, there's a pretty strong argument there that you don't want to make a run at the pumps and people go and stock up on fuel when it's in limited supplies.
Yeah.
But what about something like reducing road user charges, particularly to take the pressure off of those diesel drivers?
Yeah, like another one that people have said to me, is why don't you just reduce fuel excise tax?
Yeah.
Well, the problem with that is it's not particularly targeted, actually. The people who actually...
It's not targeted, which means by definition it can't be timely, Chewy. It can't be timely and targeted. So
you don't have one of the T's.
Yeah.
You get none of the T's.
So basically, if it helps everybody, because like you just said, you really good example, Chewy, about the real estate agent who's making tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars commissions on places that they sell. They can afford to fill up their tank with diesel, which means they don't need to have, 20 cents off a litre. But the person who's on the other end of it, who's the beneficiary, who's getting no help from these guys, or the pensioner who's getting no help from these guys, or the couple struggling where he lost his job 2 years ago, this was a story on the news last week, and she's a solid, they're getting no help. So because the real estate agent's going to get it, fuck all those people, they don't get it as well. That's basically what you're saying, dude.
You do best out of that are often wealthier people rather than lower middle income.
But just on those rugs, is that something you would look at or consider?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of things that we're looking at to say what else could we be doing.
Okay,
but
so you're not ruling that one out. That's something you'd consider.
I'm not saying that particular idea, because you can imagine we get asked with about 20 different ideas that people have.
People want to know. People are getting a bit desperate.
They are, and that's what they are really clear about, is that we will make sure that whatever support we do give people, we have to do it the right way, which is timely, targeted, temporary.
Yeah.
And we have to do a view of keeping it to doing everything we can to minimise inflation going up and growth going down.
Yes, Chewy, minimise the impacts. We heard from the Minister of Finance today that inflation was going to get terrible later this year. But apparently they're still talking about it now like it's not going to happen, whilst also saying it's going to get really bad.
Yeah, the figure mentioned, their worst case scenario was 3.7%. And now they're indicating that it's going to blow way past that. Now remember, as you like to say, Pat, we have to judge them on their words and actions.
Mm-hmm.
When inflation climbed during and after COVID, that was Labor's fault. They did that.
Yep.
So in this case, National are spiking our inflation.
Yep.
Because
why are they doing
fair,
that
right?
for us?
Why are they doing that to us?
Why are you doing this, Mr. Luxon?
It's almost like external factors can have quite a large effect on an island trading nation.
No, that wasn't
further. Actually, further than what an individual government can have.
No, that wasn't. But that wasn't the case during COVID. It was all Jacinda. Like, it wasn't even Labour. It was all Jacinda and Grant Robinson.
Here's a bigger factor. We were barely outside of that, and this government gave away billions to a non-productive part of our economy and to a tobacco company, to a single tobacco company. Like, we hadn't recovered, but they turned on the money tap. Sorry, I was going to say the money tap, the money bazooka. And they borrowed money for that. And now, because nobody's got a crystal ball, we're staring at another crisis. Several crises.
Oh.
You know, they raided the climate fund, the climate emergency fund, $6 billion out of that to balance their books, apparently. And then we have had 8 weather emergencies in the last, 8 months? That money's got to come from somewhere for that. Like, they haven't built up a kitty. If they just said, hey, look, now's not the right time for tax relief because we've got to build up the coffers again, I think people would have understood that. But these guys have one drum to bang, and that is tax cuts, whether it's appropriate or not. They are not good economic hands.
Melanie sent me something on Twitter today. I'm going to put this out there with a grain of salt because I want to look it all up. But it's the finance minister since 1987, GDP change, first 6 quarters in office. And this is the graph. There's Ruth Richardson. There's Nicola Willis. There's Grant Robinson. There's Michael Cullen. Grant Robinson.
Birch is a name that you don't often see mentioned.
Just putting it out there. Right, let's get to another clip now. And this is about the most vulnerable. Like, they're talking about the vulnerable, helping the vulnerable. Who are the most vulnerable? And I'll say it again, like, the families, go for it. Give them help. I'm completely for that. But there are people in general who are going to be far worse off than a couple with one child at school. You know, as we said earlier, come with us down to the Oval and have a look at people in tents down there. I mean, the food, the small amounts of food they do get going to the supermarket to pack, that's going up because everything's going up. What are we doing to help them, the most vulnerable? And I think in this conversation, it talks about beneficiaries. Because, Chewy, beneficiaries are going to be fine after the 1st of April. They're all getting a massive pay increase.
Okay, and potentially extending that targeted in working families relief that you gave to low and middle income.
Well, that was a good example, right?
You can extend that to beneficiaries?
Well, no, beneficiaries are actually getting a big increase or a good increase this in April 1.
Big increase, good increase. Now, I've approached Carmel Cipolloni's office to come on tomorrow night. She's social development in Labour, because they're 2 words that are testable. Big increase, good increase. We won't get into that too much tonight, but tomorrow night we'll be on the eve of all the beneficiaries apparently becoming millionaires, Chewy. So we'll have a look at that tomorrow night specifically.
There's a number of April 1 increases coming through, for superannuitants, for beneficiaries, for students. So that's really helpful, and I think will be really...
I think what he's saying, Chewy, is they're getting out the bazooka cannon for those people in a couple of days' time.
The welcome relief for people. But again, the in-working, tax credit was a good example. These are low and middle income working New Zealanders who are driving their cars to work, taking their kids to school, and yet cannot keep up with that increase that they've seen at the pump. And so getting it targeted to them for a period of time while this crisis is there is a good example of what we're looking for.
Supported living payment who need to get their kids places, job seekers as well, who need to get to interviews.
Yep. So you can hear in Tova's tone, and I'm not saying that she's because Tova gets accused of being all things to all people. I think in part she's a contrarian and she'll go after anybody, even if it's not an even hand. She'll go after anybody. And yes, thank you, Tova. There was some good pushback there because lots of people have to run their kids around who might not be in a fully waged situation to get the in-tax credit. What about them? And the answer from this government is, nah, they can stay at home and play PlayStation.
Like just this narrative that they're trying to spin, that if you're a beneficiary, you have no obligations, you have nothing, no reason to leave your house. right, is just bullshit. Like everybody's situation, if you're on a benefit, no two people are the same. You know, you have kids to run to school and that sort of thing. You know, again, if it was something like public transport, as part of their response, they would have an answer to this. You know, look, we can't give fuel money to everybody, but what we can do is we can make public transport free. It's something. You know, working people, yeah, okay, so they get some fuel every week or whatever. You know, but this is very clearly, we have a response for a very limited group of people, and everybody else can go and kick rocks.
I've got two more clips. They're both very short. They're only 20 seconds each. I'm going to play you them in reverse order from what they appeared, because the last one is where we'll wrap up for the night. The first one is, and this is what I'm saying about Tova. She you can just see her kind of just, it's day one. They were talking at the start of this, joking about being the first day of school. But you can feel there's a bit of niggle there, whether it's aimed primarily at the Prime Minister or whether she's going to play this across all politicians, because she basically says to him, you're sort of behind the scenes at the moment when it comes to this fuel stuff. Is it because Nicola Willis is a better communicator than you? And let's just have a listen to that. Oh, we will go back and we will turn it up and we will go again.
There are other countries, to be honest, that I've been talking to their leaders and they're really struggling. Some have now following our four-phase model and thinking about that's quite a useful framework for them.
There are others as well that are moving arguably a lot faster than us too. Do you think that perhaps Nicola Willis is maybe a better communicator in a time of crisis and that's why you're putting her forward?
No, Tova, it's just simply a different approach, which is I put the ministers on the task with clarity and expect them to get on and crack on and get that job done.
And of course, the thing we've talked about several times, Prime Minister, in name only, by his account, not mine, Christopher Luxon, identifying himself as the CEO of New Zealand and needing to be reminded by Tova O'Brien that he's actually the Prime Minister.
And what about you personally? Are you taking more of an intentional backseat to the response in Iran?
My job as the CEO, so day one, it's to form the ministerial oversight
Your job
group.
as the Prime Minister.
Yeah, sure it is, but my job is to make sure I've got my team on the right assignments at the right time. I've got the right group of ministers in a room with officials, with industry.
I actually wonder, in all seriousness, if that was a slip of the tongue. I actually wonder if that was a slip of the tongue. Like, I wonder if, you know, he was the CEO of Air New Zealand for X amount of years. Like, I'll give you an example.
How long ago was that, though?
Yeah, but look, I used to work for More FM in Auckland, and then I went and worked for a radio station in Tauranga. And I've spent all this time going, Auckland's 91.8 More FM, Auckland's 91.8. And then you got there and it was like, I can't remember what they were called, 93.4 Coastline FM. And I was there for a year. And after a year, I flicked the mic on and went, Auckland's 91.8 More FM.
Yeah, but Pat,
went,
you don't fire up the podcast today and say you're listening to More FM, do you? You're not working for More FM anymore.
But what I'm saying is, there's this period and all of a sudden it just dropped back in. So you saying that means you're saying he said that intentionally. I'm just saying I wonder if it slipped out. Wonder if it slipped out because his brain kind of went, that's my job.
It slipped out because that's how he sees this job. He sees it as a CEO. It's what we've said about him from the fucking get-go.
Yeah.
That he's come in and he says, I'm gonna go have a wee go at being a politician because it must be easy. But he has treated this role as a CEO from day one. That's why he doesn't have any portfolios or responsibilities. He just sees himself as pointing ministers at problems, and then he just that's his job. That's his job. He doesn't understand the political role that he holds.
Yeah.
The fact that he's the figurehead of a country, that he's not responsible to a board or shareholders. Because that's my question that's come out of this. Okay, let's take you at your word. And you were real dismissive when you got corrected on that. He just went, yeah, sure, they're the same thing. So if you're the CEO of New Zealand Inc., who is the board?
Yeah.
Who are the shareholders that deserve dividends from the operations of New Zealand Inc.? And then what are we? the bottom feeders. What are we? Are we the cogs in the machine? Are we the customers? Because this is my fundamental thing about Christopher Luxon in this role, and I will expand this out to any businessman that thinks that the two things are the same in any level of governance in this country. I'm talking about local government as well, because you often have local business people come in and go, well, I've run a successful business, so I'm going to be a successful politician, because the roles are the same, the responsibilities are the same. They are not. They are fundamentally different. As we've mentioned, a CEO in a corporation has to deliver dividends to its shareholders.
Yeah.
They have to make a profit, or they have to really explain why they didn't. And I'm sorry, but if a government is making profit, something is going wrong fundamentally. And the ways of solving a problem in a company is you cut costs. And it is the antithesis to anything a government should do. In tough times, a business will cut costs. In tough times, a government should never cut costs. It should spend more.
To wrap up tonight, I want to deliver you something from Tova O'Brien, just as a little palate cleanser when she was working for Stuff, to see if this is the kind of impact we'll get from her as a breakfast host on TVNZ. So I think this was at Field Days when she was talking to the Prime Minister for Stuff, and this is what she said to him.
Some juxtapositions and decisions that you've made. You're cutting school lunches maybe by half, but giving landlords billions in tax breaks. You cut to deal incentives to public servants, saying in the real world, outside the bubble of Parliament, people actually pay for it themselves, but you hadn't paid for it yourself. Your to deal lessons were paid for by the taxpayer. You demand tax cuts across the public service and make police an insulting payoff, and you take that $52,000 living allowance to live in your own apartment. You bemoan, just bear with me here, you bemoan the Labor government subsidising wealthy Tesla owners, but your household claimed that same $8,625 clean car subsidy. In fact, you had another Tesla on order on the taxpayer as well, which you cancelled, and you claim $3,750 from the taxpayer a month to pay your electorate office, which you also own. Can you see anything wrong with any of that?
I think you're conflating a whole bunch of issues. What I'd say to you is very clearly, we're a government that's going to focus on what we're doing, which is to actually rebuild this economy.
There you go. So there's some of the greatest hits. Yeah, some
are we
of the
back
greatest
on
hits
track?
from Tova.
Are we back? Are we back on track, Pat?
Yet. Are we back on track yet?
I saw an article on RNZ that said we're up to 20,000 construction jobs gone now in total. 8,000 in the last little while. And just to put that in perspective, think about how much effort has gone into promoting mining and minerals exploration in New Zealand, because that's a linchpin of our GDP. It is dwarfed by construction.
But we were happy to send all our builders across to Gold Coast.
Because we're back on track.
Yeah. Chats that say do the right conservative. Do it the right conservative way, not the left way, says Over Red Rover. Another one, money in kitty needs flax. That's a bit green. And Exaldia says shareholders vote in the CEO. You made a profit? ? Also, just for everyone to know, there is a comment here from Reb saying no chat tonight. So I think there's probably something with what you're seeing on the YouTube end. That's probably my bet. And probably when we finish the show, we will see normal sort of numbers. I'm actually just going to go back to this clip because I was reading the screen as it went. I forgot about this. He gets to the end of this conversation just to wrap up with, and then he has a little pissy fit.
Which is to actually rebuild this economy, get the cost of inflation down, make sure we grow it again, restore law and order, deliver better health and education.
Nothing iffy in there. That sits with you perfectly fine.
That's what we're focused on. That's what we're going to continue to do.
Okay, Prime Minister,
awesome.
thank you
Thanks
so much.
See ya.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Cheers.
bye.
Take care. Oh, yeah.
Classic tabloid stuff from Stuff. Good on you.
Hey, we fixed that.
At least you got the post right. That's good.
Classic tabloid stuff from Stuff was caught on the hot mic at the end. There you go. All right, team. That's us. We've got a fascinating old week coming up for you. Of course, it's Easter. I'm not sure whether the kids are in on Friday. That'll be up to them, but obviously Easter being Easter Friday. And then this time next week, we'll still be on holiday. for Easter Monday. But we're going to have Tanya come and join us on Wednesday. That's the plan, Tanya Waikato. I'm hoping to have Carmel Sepuloni tomorrow night. I've already put the invite out there. If not Carmel, maybe someone else who can come and talk to us about apparently all the beneficiaries and retirees are getting like a $1 million pay increase. They're all going to be very, very happy. Mr. Luxon said it's what was it doing that? Yeah. Mr. Luxon said it's big, meaning it's a big increase. So I'm thinking, got to be between $50 and $100 a week. Surely, what would be big? I mean, $2.50? No. What would be big? He used the word big. So, that's what we're expecting. A big.
It must match inflation, right? Well, it'd be more than inflation, wouldn't it?
More than inflation, yeah. It's going to be big. And also, I talked last week about having Francesca Fiorentini on. She got caught up last week in some live shows that she couldn't find time for us. But we've talked again over the weekend, and I'm, in theory, going to talk to her on Thursday, our time, and that might be on Thursday night. It's obviously always a bit difficult to connect with the US because of their time schedule, so we'll hold that one with a grain of salt, and we'll see what happens. Anything else to wrap up the show tonight, Chewy?
Oh, nothing that I can really put my finger on, so I guess we'll just wander off into the night.
Wander off into the deep blue sunset. Again, apologies to people who are waiting on their well, not apologies because you're waiting. You wouldn't have had it today anyway, but those last 10 will get on the courier tomorrow, and there's a few more that have made orders tonight as well. So thank you for all that, and I think it is time for us to say so long, farewell, see you later, auf Wiedersehen, guten Tag, goodbye, ciao.
This is going very well, Pat.
Thank you.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and will be analyzed by what you impact. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
Oh, that's it for us. We're all done. We're all dusted. Gonna go home. Am home. Tuck ourselves up into the beds and things after continuing edit words, Chewy, words.
Yeah, I think I can tell that Pat's brain is sliding down the back of his neck at the moment, so maybe we should just wrap this up.
All right, team. Catch you tomorrow night from 9 for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam!